Even if we submitted reimbursement, there's no one there to write that check.
A number of our local museums are scrambling after learning the federal grants they were promised will likely never happen. DOJ has shut down the Institute for Museum and Library Services. And as News 10 NBC investigative reporter Jennifer Lukey found out, that leaves at least a half dozen local museums in peril.
The George Eastman Museum is currently renovating the top floor of the mansion, and some of the federal money that it had been promised was going to be used to curate the space with 5 different galleries. Over the last decade, the George Eastman Museum has been able to secure more than $1 million in grants from the Institute of Museum and Library Services.
The government sort of puts in the first money to some of these big projects, and because that money then, we're only going to get that money if we can complete the project, it gives us an ability to go to other organizations and say, or individuals, and say, would you help us out?
And it's worked. But this time around, it doesn't look like the feds will come through with more than $250,000 that's already been promised to help the Eastman with those new galleries and a project it had planned to digitize part of its collection.
But it is a pretty grim outlook in terms of our ability to make some of these transformative projects happen in the future.
The Genesee Country Village and Museum is losing out too. It was just starting a project with funding from an IMLS grant to broaden its teachings about the history of enslavement in the 19th century in New York State.
Because we were just very recently granted it, we haven't spent very much of that. So of the $189,000, the vast majority has not been used here at the museum yet for this exhibit.
And now it might be too late.
We will still do it. This history is really important. It's critical that we tell our whole history and not just the parts that feel comfortable, but it will change our pace. And it will change the way we go about it.
In addition to the George Eastman Museum and the Genesee Country Village, the Rochester Museum and Science Center, the Memorial Art Gallery, and the Livingston County Historical Society and Museum have or had grants open with the IMLS. Making matters worse, they all learned today that many previously approved grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities have also been canceled.
If someone told me we're going to have a 4-year suspension of grants, we'd say, okay, we'll figure out a way to get by with that. But when you're taking apart the whole structure that is making the grants, then it feels very grim to me, frankly.
Much of this grant money has already been appropriated by Congress, so there is some question about the legality of not actually fulfilling the contracts. But none of these museums are banking on the cash, although a number of local federal lawmakers say they will continue to try and advocate for these grants to be dispersed with the administration. Jennifer Lukey, News 10 NBC.
Late this afternoon, 20 state attorneys general, including New York, sued the Trump administration to stop it from dismantling the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Keep you posted on any developments. More decisions